Hello, everybody. It's me, Shannon LaBruyere. I am live and loving it. Thank you for joining me on Sunday Night Live, where we explore the principles that allow us to thrive in change. The change that we say we want, that we thought we wanted, that we planned to have, and also the change that took us by surprise, that we didn't want, didn't plan for. We can thrive in the midst of all change if we understand the principles behind it that help us to be resilient and to be future focused. So, welcome. If you are, I've already got a comment. That's awesome. Hi, Tammy. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. Oh my gosh, so good to have you. As you jump on, folks, say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, especially if this is your first time. This is a two-way conversation, and I am looking forward to hearing what you have to say and helping you to explore the way you look at loss and risk, because you cannot separate the idea of change from the concepts of loss, risk, and there's opposite concepts that go along with that. Not just loss and risk, but gain and abundance and enough. So we're going to explore those ideas. I can't wait to do that with you. Welcome. Before we get too far in, as always, thank you to Thumb Roast Coffee for sponsoring Sunday Night Live and the Thrive and Change podcast. And if you love great coffee, you are going to love Thumb Roast Coffee. I'm currently drinking Blue Lake, and as soon as I start drinking Blue Lake after spending some time with Sanilac Sunrise, which is awesome, I drink that Blue Lake and think, oh my gosh, this is my favorite. And then when I go on to another roast, I will think that's my favorite because frankly, it's all great. You cannot lose when you order some of the world's best coffee at thumbroastcoffee.com. And you get 15% off of an online order by using the coupon code THRIVE. I encourage you to try it. Buy a bag for yourself, try it and see, and then you're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, who can I share this with? Because it's so good. So thank you, Thumb Roast Coffee. And don't forget to go to thumbroastcoffee.com and get your delicious fresh roasted coffee for 15% off by using the coupon code THRIVE. Yay! All right, next up, today's Thrive principle is hashtag trust the process. Hashtag trust the process. As we talk about this idea of loss, what have I got to lose? When we think about that, it is really, really important for us to understand that our core beliefs establish the process that we're going to follow. And so I want you to have a good process, and I'm going to teach you that process, part of it today, but we are going to trust the process. The key is to trust the right process. And we are going to talk about how to shift our thinking from this idea of risk to this idea of options, which is powerful. So I cannot wait to share it with you. And let's see who else is jumping on. We've got Paul. Oh, Paul, hi. I'm so glad you're here. It's been a while since you were here live. Thank you for being here, Paul. And hi, Carol. Glad to see you. It's so great to see you guys. All right. Are we ready? Are we jumping in? Don't forget, if there's something that you love, hit that thumbs up, hit that heart emoji. Absolutely drop some good stuff in the comments, things that you're dealing with, thinking about, maybe ways you've overcome some of the thinking that's held you back when it comes to risk and loss and change. So let's get started. All right, so I asked the question, and I'll ask it to you right now. What have I got to lose? Whenever we're considering making a change, we are always going to be looking at the possibilities that things may not turn out exactly like we predict. We look at possibilities as things like, oh, what if I don't like it? What if I don't like that new thing? What if People don't like me at that new place. What if I fail in my college studies? What if it's the new job is worse than the old job? And when we are talking about positive change, we have to somewhere, somehow shift our thinking out of, oh my gosh, what am I going to lose? Because when we focus on the loss, the potential risk, what happens? We actually create the circumstances that make those things more likely, because where our focus goes, our energy flows. So it is really important for us as we embrace positive change in our lives. It is really important for us to shift our awareness from the risk to the possibility. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Shifting our awareness from the risk to the possibility. How many of you know that if there's risk, there's also possibility, right? There's two sides to that coin. There's dark and there's light. You know, there's yin and there's yang. The darker the night, the brighter the light. We've talked about this idea of polarity and opposites, that if risk is present, possibility is also present. So when you are considering positive change, the first thing I want you to do is recognize that if you see a perceived risk, and we're going to talk a little bit about shifting out of that, if you see something as a perceived risk, you have to know that there is also great possibility. Okay? First thing up, risk, the presence of a perceived risk means that there is also the presence of possibility. This is the thing about risk taking. Risk is relative to the person involved. Risk is personal to you. What you perceive as very risky, somebody else may not perceive as risky at all. And so that means that risk is a function of perception, and perceptions can change. So just because something feels risky to you right now, I just want you to take a deep breath and recognize that it may feel risky, but that's a label that you put on it based on a perception you've had. It's not necessarily a concrete fact. Carol says this, you've said many times, but what if it fails? And then you said, but what if it goes awesome? Exactly right. The questions that we ask when we're looking at our options help us to shift out of the what am I risking losing and what are the possibilities for gain. If we want to truly thrive in all manner of change, and particularly the change that we are designing, the positive change that we want, we have to shift from the question, what if it fails, to the question, what if it succeeds? What is possible? So here's a dictionary definition of risk. Risk is exposure to the chance of injury or loss, hazard, or danger. I might get hurt. I might lose something that I currently have. There's a hazard out there that I don't know about, or maybe it's dangerous, the thing I'm getting ready to do. It's a label that we put on things that we perceive as dangerous and risky. So I love to go to the park with my granddaughter, with all of my grandchildren, actually, and I love to watch them try new things and watch their approach. And so one day we were all there playing, and there was a little girl, and she was there with her dad. And the little girl was about 3 years old, and she's getting ready to climb on this, I don't know, it looks like a dome, monkey bars. I label everything monkey bars. I don't know if that's from your childhood or not, but this little girl getting ready to climb on the monkey bars. And her dad was standing right by her. Now, mind you, the monkey bars, they started on the ground, and they went up at a very shallow incline. So it was going to take a while for this little 2-3-year-old girl to get very high on these. But her dad didn't even want her to try it. So this little girl, she is all in, like she saw those monkey bars and thought, I'm going to climb on that thing. And you could see the light in her eyes, which I just love to see. You know me, I love to see that. Let's do it. Let's try something new. And she goes over to these monkey bars and her dad says, oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. Don't do that. Those are for the big kids. And I'm thinking to myself, these don't look very scary. I mean, I suppose if she wanted to climb to the tippy top of it, it'd be for big kids, right? But oh no, her dad was having none of it. No, no, no. He says, you can't go on that. That's dangerous, he says. And he leads her off, trying to get her to do something else. And she gravitates back. She wanted to try her skills. She had this innate sense of, oh my gosh, I can see what's possible. I could climb that. I could climb that. She knew she could. She had never done it, but she had this innate sense of, I want to try something new. And here was her dad convincing her, really convincing her, trying. You can't do that. It's too big. It's too scary. It's too dangerous. And in a way, it broke my heart because that little girl is hearing. It's not just that she's hearing, that little girl, her definition of what's risky and what's scary is being defined by somebody who, from my perspective, didn't have a great sense of what was actually risky. I raised 3 kids. I've got 5 grandkids. I wouldn't have considered that little monkey bar thing risky for any of them. And yet here's this dad with a whole different perspective, labeling something that I view as totally fine as risky. And then I think about myself, looking at some of the things that I consider doing in my growth journey. Things like playing the keyboard for the worship service at church, which I've labeled as risky. What if I mess it up? What if I fail in front of everybody? What if I make a mistake and somebody else, it affects them? What if I make it hard for them to do their job? And yet there's somebody else with a different perspective who looks at that same situation and says, oh my gosh, what have you got to lose? It's one day. If you mess it up, you'll do better next time. No worries. They would forge right ahead where potentially I would get stuck. And that person potentially views something as risky that somebody else looks at and says, oh my gosh, there's nothing to that. Some people hate public speaking. I look at public speaking and think, oh my gosh, I can do this standing on my head. No, I don't promise you that it'll be great, but I'm not afraid of it. Do you see what I'm trying to say about this idea of risk? That it's very ambiguous. It's not cut and dried. In fact, you get to decide what's risky and what's not. You get to decide how you label risk. It's up to you. Anybody want to share something that you've looked at in your life as risky, that you thought was risky, and maybe you did it and learned something from it, or maybe you haven't done it yet, but you've been thinking about it and gone, but is that risky? So this is the thing. If you're thinking about risk, it's important to understand where the label came from. And is it really risky? Now, 100% jumping off of a cliff with no bungee cord, no parachute, and no water. I mean, that's risky, right? That's legitimate. So we're not talking about real danger, things that the law of physics says, yeah, if you do this thing, you're going to hit the bottom and it's not going to feel great, right? That jump you're getting ready to take. What we're talking about when it comes to us and change are these circumstances where we're evaluating our options. What could I do? And then we start sorting them and labeling them. So if I want to get to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, there are a couple of ways that I can do that. And so we'll put all the options on the board, right? I could jump. That's an option. Is it a good one? Well, we'll see. I could take a mule down, right? They've got a mule train that goes down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It takes them a couple of days. I could get on a mule train and go to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Is that risky? I don't know. We'll see. I could perhaps hike down with a guide. I could hike down without a guide. I could parachute into the bottom of the Grand Canyon if I was a really talented person when it comes to parachuting. Are they called parachuters? Let's call them parachuters. If I was a great parachuter. So all these options for accomplishing my goal of getting to the Grand Canyon. And we can take a look at them and say, do I want to just jump? I do not, because that's going to cause me harm. That's not going to be good. We know the laws of physics are against that. You can take that off the table. So just because you don't choose to do something doesn't mean you have to label it as risky. It's just not going to get you where you need to go. It's not a viable option. We can make decisions all day long and make good decisions without ever having to shift out of possibility into fear. If I want to get to the bottom of the Grand Canyon because I want to be able to explore the river down there, I want to be able to camp for a few nights, will I be able to do that if I jump from the top? I will not. It doesn't work. It's done. It's off the table. It doesn't meet my needs. I want to spend my time thinking about the possibilities. What can I do? What will happen? What goal do I have? And then will that action that I might have labeled as risky, will that action get me closer to my goal? Yes or no? A different way to look at risk. All right, so Carol says, I went over the Grand Canyon in a plane. I love that. Another option, right? You can fly over it and see it. So maybe the guy fell off the monkey bars when he was little. Oh, we're talking about that little girl at the playground. I was bit by a dog, and I probably put that on Kelsey and should not have. I don't like being around dogs even today. Yeah, we have experienced things that harmed us in the past, and we're not stupid. We know if a stove's hot, don't touch it, right? That dog could bite, so let's be careful. Our perspective is different than somebody else's, and we do pass that on. We do pass that on, and I don't want you to beat yourself up. None of us need to beat ourselves up for the things that we've learned in life, those lessons that we learned because we got hurt, because those are valuable lessons. It's the issue happens when we start labeling things as risky when we don't really have any evidence to say that it's so, especially when it comes to change. It's not what we can do. It's not about all of our options. It's what will we do that counts. What will we do to get toward that positive change that we want to have? And what is it going to require us to let go of? What is it going to require us to let go of? And for some of us, letting go of what we know is a risk. But I'm here to tell you, if you want a positive change in your life, you are going to have to do something differently. You are going to have to do something differently. And if you decide very early in your decision-making process, when you're looking at all your options, if you decide to start operating based on what you think is risky and what you think is too risky, you are going to start eliminating all manner of possibilities of things that could get you closer to your goal. Because when we start focusing on the risk, we cannot focus on the possibilities. If we're looking at the risk, we cannot look at the possibilities. We need to bring those things closer. I could have labeled this one, Find the Beauty, right? Because there's always some joy and some pain at the same time. The same thing with this idea of risk and possibility. If we think risk is all the way over here and it's so scary that we can't even attempt to do something new, how would we ever be able to see the possibility, what would happen if we tried it? We've got to choose where to put our focus, and we get to choose. Because if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So what I want you to really embrace here is your ability to choose how you label activities. You get to choose actions and you get to choose how you label them. You can choose them as risky, or you can choose to label them as risky, or you can choose to label them as getting you closer to your possibilities. Even if it incites a little fear, a little nervousness, a little discomfort. Just because something makes you uncomfortable doesn't equal risk. Just because something ignites fear in you doesn't mean it's a risk. Just because something makes you physically sick to contemplate doesn't mean it's a risk. It's your perspective that's causing you to label it like that. It is not risky for me ever to get up in front of a group of people and talk. And you may label it as risky, but nobody dies when that happens. So how real is that risk? How dangerous is it really? How hazardous? How injured would we actually get? What could we lose? When we start getting stuck, when we start looking at the positive changes that we want in our life and we start labeling any action that we take toward it as risky, we're not going to get very far. We have to find a way to shift our awareness from what is risky versus what is possibility. And this is how we do that. This is how we do that. It goes back to our core beliefs. So Tammy says this, I always see the possibility in things, not the risk. Awesome, Tammy. This is what allows you to take action and to move forward and to pursue your goals, because you're seeing possibilities and not risk. I'm here to tell every one of you, if you are programmed, if your default is to see the risk and that's where you go first and you can never get out of the risk, I'm here to tell you that you can choose to start looking at possibility and not considering every option as a question of, is it risky or is it not risky? How about, is it going to get me closer to my possibility or is it not? How does it serve me in my journey? Things feel a lot less risky when we embrace the fact that it's going to serve us in our journey. I worked for 31 years and some change for a government agency. And about 5 years before I actually left that organization, I was faced with a choice, because I knew that that organization and staying within that structure was sucking me dry. It was almost suffocating. It was a very dysfunctional work environment. I was not able to use my best gifts and skills. And in fact, the things that make me me, my enthusiasm, my hopefulness, my positivity, my ability to see past obstacles, that was looked at like a bad thing. And it's one of my best things. It's one of the things I love about me the most. It's one of the things God gave me that's the best. And this organization and the culture there squandered it right and left. And I realized that if I wanted to use my best gifts, I was going to have to get out of that organization. And I made a decision that I was going to leave in 5 years. And some people heard me say that and said, why would you do that? Why would you risk losing that steady income? Why would you risk losing the opportunity for advancement? Why would you risk the consistency of the benefits? Why would you risk all of that to leave? And all I could see was possibility. What is it going to look like when I can use my gifts and my talents and have the people that I'm serving appreciate them and grow because of them? I couldn't look at the risk because I would have stayed stuck. Deciding to stay was not going to allow me to pursue possibility. It wasn't going to allow me to pursue those possibilities. And Tammy, what you said, seeing the possibilities, not the risk. Yes, I was making decisions that for some people might have felt very risky. But for me, I knew that the greater hazard, the greater risk would be for me to stay and not grow, for me to stay and continue to give my best gifts to people who did not appreciate them, care for them, or improve because of them, people who wasted my hard work. A culture that looked down on my enthusiasm, my excitement, my joy, a culture that rolled its eyes when I put forth an idea at the table. Not everybody was like that. Overall, that was the culture. Some people thought it was way too risky to set that aside. And I thought, if I'm going to pursue the possibility of what I've got in me, I cannot cling to this idea that it's too risky to let go of the things that aren't serving me. And now we come to the core belief. Now we come to the core belief. And it is this. For those of you who are Sunday Night Live veterans, this is not going to come as a surprise to you. This is the core belief that allows you to shift out of that risk and fear into possibility thinking. And it is this: I always have everything I need to do the next thing I need to do. You always have everything you need to do the next thing you need to do. You are always fully resourced. This is one of my core beliefs. I am a child of God, and He has given me everything I need to do the things that He has called me to do, the purpose that He created me to pursue. He has given me every tool, every resource. I am always 100% fully resourced. I lack for nothing. There is no such thing as risk. There are decisions that will take me farther from my goal, that will make me less likely to reach my goal. But those aren't risky. They're decisions that I rule out because they don't serve me well. I have possibility in my life and no risk. No risk when I am aligned with my purpose, doing what I have been created to do. There is abundance above all I can ask or think. That is the core belief that will allow you to be able to pursue your dream. Because if God gave you a dream, He gave you everything you need to reach it. He did not give it to you to tease you. He gave it to you because you have what you need to get there. You may not see the whole path, but I will tell you this: if you are holding on to the fear of what you could lose, you cannot embrace the possibility of what you can gain. And when you understand that no matter where you go on this path forward toward that change that you've got in your heart, toward that dream that you're pursuing, when you understand that you lack nothing ever, you are fully resourced by the same God that put the desire for it in you, you cannot lose. It is never a risk to pursue your purpose and your dream, because there are good things in your path that you're walking. Understanding that I live in abundance. I am always fully resourced. I have a purpose and a calling, and when I walk in it, I lack for nothing. Frees me up to be able to try something new, put myself out there and play the keyboards in a worship service and potentially make some mistakes, which I did and I do. But I'll tell you this, it's not risky. It's not risky, because even when I'm making a mistake as I pursue my calling and my purpose, those mistakes may look like missteps. but they are actually gifts. They're actually gifts to me. They're gifts to you. Whatever path you're pursuing, I want you to know this. You have everything you need to take the next step. There is no such thing as risk when we are embracing our purpose, our calling, and we are moving toward that, fueled and inspired by a God who has assured us over and over and over that he has given us everything we need to do what he's called us to do. You, my friends, risk nothing by stepping out and doing something new that you've never done. You risk nothing by moving forward and sharing your vision, your dream with somebody else, with telling people about what change you want to see for them because of how you serve them. There's no risk there, because even if something doesn't go right, you are still walking in your purpose and you are fully resourced to do the next thing you need to do. Oh, Paul, Paul, saxophone player, says, I've played bad notes and nobody died. What a great bar to set, right? Who was harmed when I messed up? What will people think about this in 5 years? I don't even care what people will think about this in 5 years. A much better question is this. Will I remember this in 5 years? Carol says she's played bad notes too and nobody died. Yeah. In 5 years, will any one of us look back on the steps we took today that felt risky and say, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing ever? Those decisions are few and far between. I encourage you to always evaluate your decisions. I'm not saying you forge ahead as if there's no downside to a choice, but know this, that idea of risk is eliminated when we understand that it is simply a choice that does not serve me well. It does not serve me well. It won't get me closer to my goal. 100% legitimate to be afraid to jump from the top of the Grand Canyon to the bottom. 100% legitimate. I'm not going to risk that. It's not even a risk because it's not an option. When we start looking at our options and staying away from that label of, ooh, that's scary or that's too much, and we look at, if I did that, what would happen? Not what would I lose. If I did that, what could happen? You get to pick where you spend your time. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. Are you going to spend your precious energy evaluating risk, holding on to the known, or are you going to embrace the purpose, the vision, the dream that's in your heart? Ask yourself the question, what if I succeed? And pursue with abundance, knowing you're fully resourced, that dream that God put in your heart. You get to pick. You don't have to do it all at once either. No, one step at a time. One step at a time. I will confess that there were times as I prepared for my journey to leave that organization, that there were times when I felt like I was risking something. And then I chose to look at the risk of staying, the risk of not changing. What's going to cost me more, staying and being stuck, or leaving and pursuing my calling and my purpose? What are the possibilities that lie ahead of you when you take away that label of risk? Understand that every decision you get to make is one that will either take you further, closer toward where you want to be, or farther away. And then you can discard the ones that take you farther away and take a look at the ones that allow you to get closer. And when you have that purpose and that burning desire to add value to people, to follow that dream, it is amazing what you become willing to do. It's amazing. All of a sudden, the fear that stopped you evaporates because the possibility of success is so enticing. The call of your purpose is so alluring that all of a sudden things that you would have never done in the past because they were too risky, you decide, oh my goodness, I have to do that because it gets me closer to my goal. Living in our purpose. It's a beautiful thing. Living in abundance, living in possibility allows us to embrace positive change. And that is a process that will never let you down. All right. Mwah. With that, my friends, take care. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next weekend, which will be the 4th of July weekend here in the United States. And we will be having Sunday Night Live. And you know what? We're going to talk about freedom. Let freedom ring. That's what I say. So until then, take care. I love you. God bless. Bye.